Magic the Gathering judges. They are the referees and tournament organisers to an extent. I know they aren't the actual people putting on the tournament, but they are the people doing the logistics of telling players where to go, where to sit, doing pairings, dealing with issues, rulings, and helping to deal with things like potentially cheaters and disagreements. They help Magic events run. They help organised play run smoothly, but just run in general. And judges get promos. They pay to be part of Judge Academy. I'll explain more on that in a moment. And in exchange, they get training and conferences to help them to network and understand how better to run events. And they also get promos, foil promos, to basically compensate them for the price they're putting in, plus all the effort they're putting in. But the judge promo I just showed you on screen is an ancient, old, expensive judge promo from back in the day when Wizards of the Coast dealt directly with judges before they got scared because of a potential court case. The judge promos now differ and are often not as good. Also, people are paying to be part of the judge program now, which never used to be the case either. I'll explain more on that in a moment. The Judge Academy revealed these to be the promos for this end of year. That's right, you're looking at 5 basic lands. Now, bearing in mind this was last season's or last rotation, that's right, those are old boarded cards, including a Sword of War and Peace and a Painter Servant. Understandably, a lot of judges and people who want to support the judge community are fucking pissed. I want to unpack in this video how much of an absolute joke it is to reward basically a volunteer workforce with some of the worst promos we've ever seen. It's kind of a joke. And if some of you are wondering why we should care about the freebies that some people are getting, these people run our events, but also beyond that, Wizards of the Coast spend almost nothing to print these. Printing these basic lands that they're giving to judges as compensation is the same as printing, I don't know, retro foil Swords of X and Y. So for them to do this seems so neglectful and so fucking stupid, it boggles the mind. If you want to support this channel, I am primarily sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com. Link in the description below to pick up singles or sealed product to help support the show, get 5% off your order. Like I said, judge foils were used to compensate judges for being judges and doing the judging that they do. Of course, they are paid on an individual basis by TOs and local game stores and the people running the events, but these were to encourage people to be part of the judge program, to train in the judge program, to network in the judge program, and to build a judge community that can function as a backbone for organised play. These can wildly vary, like how about foil Force of Wills, the staples that were giving out the judges back in 2014. Of course, 2014 was a different time. Most recently, we had Judge Foil Animate Dead with a reference to Ixalan and zombies. Right through to very undesirable foils like Mystics of the Ismagnus, a commander that not that many people play, and currently this judge foil is $2. More on that in a minute. And what makes a good judge foil is basically something that will give the judges some compensation for their time and energy. Getting to be a $20 rare is probably where you want judge foils to be at a minimum. And it can be difficult to make these work. For example, with the Mystics, there was an issue that it was the first foil printing of it. If you look at the price trajectory of it on Goldfish, it was worth upwards of like $20 at some point. But they were given out like candy as part of the judge program, one of the most plentiful ones according to the multiple people that are supposed to be about judge foils today. But also the foils then got reprinted in double masters and commander masters, meaning that the foils of it aren't even that rare anymore. So it being an alternate art foil becomes less valid because of the fact that we're reprinting the foils later. And also Mystics compared to say Zakama sees much less play in Commander. We probably should ignore that. I genuinely believe that every game piece in Magic should be pretty cheap. Pennies, dollars if we have to do. And I think that the promos and the foils, the alternate treatments, the frame extensions, that sort of stuff should be where the money and collectability is. Part of me has started to wonder if actually it'd be cool if foils weren't in packs. I know, that sounds crazy, What I'm saying is that when a card is first printed, there should be foils in the packs, right? Or they get a foil printed like in the Judge promo here, and then Commander Masters and Double Masters don't have foil options available, and thus the foils retain some value. We have playable game pieces that people want to play, we have collectible game pieces for the foils. I don't know if this is a good idea. It's something I've come up with in the last day or so. I'm going to talk more about that in a later video, perhaps. So what is the Judge Academy? It looks to support the judge community with conferences that allow judges to develop skill sets that support the growth of local communities, develop their rules understanding, help them handle tournament logistics, like setting up event spaces, running the event through apps and pairings and similar, that sort of stuff. All of this costs the judges at current time of recording $75 a year to be part of. They're paying for a membership to a thing that then allows them to get essentially work at local game stores or tournaments. In theory, when it was first set up, it was actually set up with a higher cost. I'm not going to go into today because I never really followed the history of it. I knew people were upset and pissed off, but others were happy for it to be the best eventuality they got. You see, the judge program used to be run by Wizards of the Coast. There were court cases in 2015, or almost court cases in 2015, they got settled, which would put Wizards as being responsible for judges, for their overtime, for their pay, for their breaks, because they'd be employees of Wizards essentially, because they are, you know, promoting the game and running the game for them. Wizards then responded to this by getting away from those court cases, settling them, and then getting the fuck away from the Judge program. They're loosely affiliated with Judge Academy, but it's a separate thing set up by someone else on behalf of Wizards, in association with Wizards. It's all a bit muddy. I say that, you could actually probably get the hard facts for it, but this video isn't really about how Judge Academy was set up. That's not that important to this video. But I just want to reiterate that they're not being paid to do any of this by Wizards. Instead, tournament organisers and local game stores will look to utilise Judge Academy certified judges to run their events, settle rules disputes, deck checks, dealing with infractions, and often general minute-to-minute running of pairings and setup and player instructions. I can't stress enough how much judges don't just come to a table and give a ruling. They deal with everything. They make sure people aren't cheating, or if they are cheating, how to deal with it. They often deal with pairings and the setup of the event as well. Those TOs and those LGSs will pay the judges, sometimes in boxes of product, other times money. That's a whole other discussion about how much is people's labour worth and should they be being paid, or should we even care if they're volunteering to do it anyway. That's kind of tangential to this discussion, but not as much the main focus being the piss that's being taken by Wizards with these promos. Then and now, many people suggest that judges should unionise. But as someone who's super pro-union, I don't even know how that looks for a volunteer workforce that is volunteering for a separate company that then isn't associated with Wizards. It sounds more complicated than your average union. I'm not saying it's not the correct course of action, but I think just saying you should unionise and then nothing further isn't that helpful. Some of the early foils have insane prices attached to them, often being the only foil printings of cards, including the reserve list. That's the early days. It moved on to being, you know, mainly hits, little misses, and in recent time it's been more hits and misses. It's not a perfect formula because judge foils are, you know, subject to the markets themselves adjusting how much they cost. That's one of the downsides of paying your people in this weird currency that you get to invent and create, commission some art for, and then print. You're basically printing your own money to pay people with. And you've got to remember, that's why it's so cheap for Wizards. Some of these have unique art, and the unique art then costs to be commissioned, so there is an overhead cost for making them. But once that's out of the way, the overhead for printing them is fucking in the dirt. It is almost non-existent for a company like Wizards of the Coast. They cost literally pennies to print, and judges are getting valuable assets out of them for the most part that compensates them for their time. It's not a perfect system. That's absolutely apparent. But it works for Wizards, and for the longest time it has worked for the judge community, who have been the backbone of organised play, of all the events that qualify into something like the Pro Tour, for example. And the move to having to pay a fee for this wasn't great. But again, as long as you're getting comped enough to pay for the fees and some of your travel costs, or enough to make you feel like you're getting some value out of it, then people were willing to pay, right? And let's go back to that idea that sometimes when you reprint the foils at a later date, it drops their price. Like with Mystics, for example, who just crashed and is worth nothing now. This is a wider issue within Magic. How much reprints are actually viable and how much damage they can do to the markets that support entire ecosystems and local game stores and people's works and livelihoods. These 5 basic lands, they are full art. That 10 years or more ago, let's say 2013, these could have been really decent promotional cards because they would have been unique. There wouldn't have been that many foil full arts on the market. But the landscape in which these promos are being offered to judges now, being told that this is their compensation for paying $75 a month to Judge Academy and then attending conferences and then going to events and such, these are in a whole different world. We have so many full art foils in every fucking set now. Like some of the recent sets, like Will Be One and March of the Machines, I don't know which one it was. There are 3 different types of full art foil lands in them. That's insane. There's a wider issue in Magic where things aren't special if you give them to us every fucking time they release something. I love the idea of accessibility, but when it comes to the cosmetics, that's probably where the game should be focusing its collectability and its ability for people to, you know, have a collection that's worth money. And this is the prime example of it. You can't do full art land promos anymore. They're not going to be worth anything. And then beyond that, there's so many other options for them. They had a fucking Sword of X and Y in the last pack. That's so much better than a fucking mountain. I know everybody loves a fucking mountain, but it's just a fucking mountain. And they're given out in small number. You can't even like bling out your entire mono red EDH deck with this stuff. When I was first shown these by a judge friend when we were talking about a conference that they were going to do, I started to type full art lands is kind of a shit promo, but I stopped myself and deleted it and carried on the conversation elsewhere because I didn't want to shit on them. I didn't want to yuck their yum, and I didn't want to piss all over the work that they put in and the compensation they're getting for it, right? You don't turn to your friend and say, haha, you didn't get paid enough. That fucking sucks. But then I saw people were just angry and upset, and Twitter was alight with judges just being so frustrated with not being compensated fairly for what they feel that they're doing. And I've realised that actually, I was probably right not in that context to say, oh fuck, that's a bit shit. But I felt like I had to say something. I want to reiterate that judges are the backbone of events, from large-scale Magic Cons where Reed Pop will employ both the old guard pool of floor staff that Channel Fireball and other companies have used, right through the same judges that Channel Fireball used to use. There's a whole community of people that help these events to run, and they've making our conventions run for a decade or more. And then right through to the judges that look to support your local store and running comp events with integrity. Those people aren't getting freebies here, kids. These people are being compensated for their time when they did training and conferences to learn how to do these things, from rules workshops to tournament organization. These aren't freebies. This is compensation for another human being's time. And recently, Wizards removed the need for judges at lower events, which for stuff like pre-release and FNMs makes sense, sure, whatever, it allows more stores to play them. But for an RCQ that eventually feeds all the way into the fucking Pro Tour, allowing store owners just to run the events and make rulings as best they can, or ask players, heaven forbid, ask players in the event to judge a ruling on a tournament they're in, that's a pretty big fucking conflict of interest. It's a farce. Competitive Magic might not be the focus anymore, but it deserves better than this. And to say that judges here, here's a basic mountain, buddy, what the fuck is this? Wizards, what are you doing? And some people are saying it's Judge Academy's fault, and I'm not really looking to actually figure out whose exact fault it is and point a finger of blame. I'm pretty sure it's not Judge Academy. They're the ones picking or printing the foils. And I know there are people at Wizards that care about this. They care about large events, they care about organised play, they care about the judge stuff, they care about the legacy of the game itself. I know there are individuals that really fucking care, but somehow collectively Wizards have dropped the ball this hard by giving people full art lands as their judge promos. Remember, it cost them next to nothing to print these beyond the art commission. Hell, fuck it, the art commission for these is similar to the art commission of an actual staple that might give them some fair recompense. The only perceived loss of cost is that they can't sell you Painter's Servant in a secret lair. It's a loss of reprint equity. But the way it should be chalked up by any mathematician or accountant at Wizards of the Coast is that the loss of reprint equity for giving them a staple over, say, a basic land is that reprint equity they're losing is being used to pay for a volunteer workforce. It is not a loss of money. If anything, you're getting away with paying people with fucking money that you're printing out of a money printer. If you want to revitalize Standard as a format and grow the game beyond people just proxying casual shit, removing the backbone of competitive play is probably not the way to do it. It's a really sad state of affairs because I don't necessarily want to drum up a video that revels in the pain or frustration of people that have put hours and years of their life into growing the judge community. If anything, I want to stand with them and endorse the fact that they're upset and frustrated, and it's fair that they are. There are so many people telling me right now that they're not going to renew their subscriptions, or they're really close to not doing so. And that is fucking sad. We're going to lose so much actual talent or experience of people that have been in this community doing this for Magic for so long. And there will be people that stay and take the worst promos imaginable that Wizards will give them. And that will then tell Wizards that they can stay the course on this action. I'm not trying to tell you all that you need to strike or say no or all walk out in unison. Although those are options that might actually speak louder than taking this shit line down. I'm not part of the judge program, okay? I once upon a time considered becoming a level 1 judge to help my local community. I never end up doing it. Too lazy, I guess. I don't know, that's what I mean, it's work, right? It's actual work. But I have friends that are judges, and I respect judges for what they do for Magic. So to see Wizards either inadvertently or purposefully show such fucking negligence and take such piss really boils my blood. I really hope Wizards listens to the valid complaints and look to offer some form of better promos in addition to this as a goodwill gesture to prove that they actually care. Because some individuals at that company do fucking care. And to get them back on side and to keep the Judge promo alive to support all of us when we want to play constructed or limited beyond the FNM level. Competitive play matters and judges matter to competitive play. Even from a selfish perspective, surely people watching this video can see that. I've been Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And if you're a judge, I'm fucking sorry you got to deal with this shit. It sucks. I do read the comments, and if you think I've got anything wrong and you are a judge, by the way, my emails are open. PleasantKenobi@gmail.com is the best way to actually send me directly some info, and I can read that, take it into account for the next thing, even respond if you want to have a conversation. I'm open for that, because I realise this is someone else's plight, not mine. I just wanted to put some fucking focus on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.